still in the collapse mode.
Now, speaking of magic,
Yes.
we have Greece in the headlines. Greece rattled by hidden debt controversy.
The Greece like Olivia Newton-John, that Greece, or the country Greece?
The country
oh,
of
the
Greece.
country of Greece, okay.
In Europe, and everybody's afraid that Greece is going to blow up financially and tear apart the entire European Union. So Greek debt markets have come under fresh assault from hot money funds after a commission of experts called the Commission on the Reliability of Statistics. They investigated all the data that has been used by the government of Greece for the last few years, and they found 40 billion euros in hidden debt that wasn't known prior to yesterday or this week.
Oh, this is interesting.
And, of course, the hot money, all the investors, the speculators, global speculators, have withdrawn their money.
What's the name of this group that's doing this study?
The Committee on the Reliability of Statistics.
The Committee on the Reliability of Statistics.
That's
right. So finally, when the party's over, they decided to actually do some accounting.
Yes, this is what always happens at during a crash.
All right, so they're doing some accounting finally, and they found 40 billion?
40 billion euros more than what they thought.
In debt.
In debt.
Okay, now let me just point out to those in the international audience who might not be familiar with this, but you take the world's so-called largest economy, the United States of America. If you were to actually dig under the surface statistical reports that are generated by the United States government, and if you were to look at, let's say, the shadow government system, as Gordon Brown calls it, you would find probably $15 to $16 trillion of additional bad debt on banks' balance sheets. This is why there's another huge leg to the deflationary collapse coming because of this very thing. What Greece is ahead of the curve. They're actually doing some disclosure there.
Premier George Papandreou, who's the head of government in Greece, said this: Greece is at the center of an unprecedented speculative attack. We cannot be at the mercy of creditors. Despite our tragic mistakes, our fate is today defined by rating agencies that bear responsibility for the bubble that led to the global crisis in the first place. And he's saying that because 10-year government bonds, the yields on 10-year government Greek bonds, they jumped by 14 basis points in one day, and they're now at record spreads between Greek bonds and German bonds.
Right, so you have the hot money crowd, the same crowd that was in Iceland in 2006. When I was in Iceland in 2006, I sat down with these Bear Stearns and Lehman Brothers brokers, and they told me they were going to crash the Icelandic economy and the Icelandic krona. This hot money crowd that is a sovereign is accountable to no one, with hundreds of billions of dollars worth of bets that they can make, and if they make a mistake, they get bailed out. They're now, in Greece, roiling that market, and is correct to point out that the rating agencies are, of course, part of the racketeering that goes on. The rating agencies are totally compromised. The investment banks and the politicians and the bankers, they form what's you could call a criminal racket. So until there's some kind of anti-racketeering investigation initiated, then there's no way to stop this from happening, because every time you go after the agencies, then the investment banks will pop up and do some nefarious thing. If you go after the investment banks, then the rating agencies will pick up the slack. So you have to look at it as an enterprise, a criminal racket.
And part of the reason why the credit default swaps, was the cost of insurance on Greek debt, is rising so rapidly the second half of this year, is because Germany and the ECB have said over and over again that they will not bail out Greece. And now Joseph Stiglitz is saying that this is crazy. He's suggesting that they issue a euro bond or a solidarity fund. It's perverse that the EU can help private companies, but not to national treasuries. If you are willing to lend to banks, he says, why not lend to governments?
Well, sure, because the corpocracy has greater political clout than the government itself. And the ratings on the bonds for these huge multinationals like McDonald's, for example, or some other multinational behemoth that's draining the globe of its financial and integrity, is actually higher than some of these governments.
Well, the citizens of these countries are also very much like the corpocracies. It's all trickle-down corpocracy, if you want to call it that, because Spain is the other weak link in the European Union, and their debt levels are almost as high as, their deficits are 11.4%, whereas Greece is at 13%. But in Spain, we have a headline, Spain's tax-dodging landlords add to state's burgeoning debt. So Spain is in in danger of defaulting as well. And yet it turns out that more than half of Spain's landlords are dodging taxes or paying no taxes on their properties. So even though rental properties increased by 18% last year, revenues went down. There's no rental income because everybody's avoiding taxes. Nobody wants to pay their taxes. Everybody wants to be a hedge fund.